So I've been diving into this game in the last couple weeks. I'm going to be doing some interviews in the near future around it, and I never took it seriously when it was available, and so I never got to like connect with it on a personal level. So I've been trying to do that by hearing people's opinions on it, by watching videos. You're one of the I don't know if anyone created more Planetside Arena content than you, so I
Probably
just
not.
figured I had to talk to you.
Yeah. Planetside Arena was my favorite battle royale. I played basically every one as they came out. And while I generally panned it for various reasons, it was my favorite battle royale that I ever played.
Okay, is that like my favorite battle royale? How much sarcasm is in that statement about
Well,
liking
that
battle
that
royales?
that is the thing. In the sense, battle royale is not my shtick
Uh-huh.
necessarily. I enjoy them. They're exciting. They get the blood pumping in the way other sorts of games don't.
Yeah.
Um, but played Apex, played PUBG, played all these other ones that kind of came out that were, you know, had like a few minute lifespans and then fell down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I was interested, not enough to switch over from my main type of game, but all in all, having played all of them, I really enjoyed Planetside Arena.
What did you like about it?
Um, there was certainly the affinity of gunplay that was a little more natural to me.
Was it how close was it to PlanetSide 2? Was it like 1-to-1 or was it like a punched up version or
No, um, man, I'm trying to. The movement, you couldn't turn quite as hard. Like there was a little bit of a motion penalty when you did a hard turn.
some
Whereas
inertia?
Planetside, you can go 180.
Right.
You can go 180. You're going in the same speed in a different direction.
Yeah.
Um, and
Shuffling as they call it.
yeah, and the time to kill felt higher. I think it was more because it was harder to aim and you were missing more.
Okay.
Time to kill felt a little higher, but overall there was definitely still a correlation. You could
Okay.
take your skills and translate them over there. So that felt good. Also, I like about it you had personal transport. That was kind of a big thing. Most of these battle royales, you were
Right.
walking for 30 minutes. You might see a guy, you might not, and you're kind of just trudging through, whatever these maps are. Whereas this one, it was faster, man. You can move where you wanted. You didn't feel trapped. You didn't die into the ring just because it moved faster than you wasn't a thing.
Uh-huh.
So there was a little more user friendliness involved that I think also worked well.
Was the overall pacing a bit faster than the other royales you've played?
I would say yes, certainly more than PUBG. Apex, which is something we'll have to talk about because that came at the same time. Apex really solved a lot of the battle royale problems.
Mm.
And so the pacing, I would say, more in line was line with Apex, whereas PUBG and H1Z1 were slower originally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because when Planetside Arena was supposed to be gaining traction is right when Apex Legends came out, and it totally like it moved the battle royale conversation way forward from where it was. Before
Yep.
that, like there was, they're the old Arma heads, and I had to learn
Mm-hmm.
about this shit because I don't play battle royales really.
Yeah.
And then and there's H1Z1 like out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then there was Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, and those
Yep.
were that was kind of like the menu
Yep.
when Planetside Arena was getting made, and what
Yep.
it was trying to offer something different in, and then it came out, sort of struggled out, struggled back, and then there's Apex, and Apex comes out where it doesn't just offer a battle royale, but it also gives a hero shooter stuff with
Yes.
abilities and personalities, like the same kind of formula that Blizzard pulled with Overwatch, iterating on like Team
You're.
Fortress 2,
Yeah, you nailed it there.
and that was killer.
They really took it because you had FPS games for ages, right?
Yeah.
FPS, all sorts of shooters, and then Overwatch really came out, the hero shooter, right?
Mm.
Just such a unique spin on it. And Apex really did that same thing. You had battle royales, you had all sorts of different versions, and then Apex, boom, hero battle royale was just an interesting take on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I would to some extent say Planetside Arena was about to do that because you had classes,
Right.
you know, and so you had H1Z1. There was no classes. You just picked up whatever weapons and used them. Same with
Mhm.
PUBG. Same with almost every shooter. Whereas Planetside Arena was going to come out and be the first one that had, I'm going to call them heroes, but in this case they called it classes. But
Mhm.
unique different characters you could play in that Royale that had different play styles.
Right, there was the Assault, the Medic, and the Engineer, right?
Correct.
And did they
With
play super differently?
um in the beta, the full on beta, they did, and then they came together a little bit closer
Hmm,
in what I'm going to call it beta 2, or there was an overhaul mid beta. A lot of
mhm,
things changed,
mhm.
and then they played closer together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why were they brought closer together, do you think?
Um I think it was, I mean, again, Apex Legends. So they had a launch date. Apex Legends came out like a week before it, I want to say. Something horrible, right? Out of the blue. This just killer, amazing battle
The
royale.
nightmare scenario.
Exactly. And then it had a few things, and they realized they couldn't release during that hype. They needed a little more time anyways. In a perfect world.
Mhm.
Although even an unfinished game 6 months before Apex would have had a much greater chance. And so they did a few things. Apex came out with respawn points. Boom. They respawn points were put in Planetside Arena.
So they learned from
Um,
that, they copied that.
they learned from that. So
That's the
originally, up
one.
until that point,
And, how's
there
that
were
mechanic
revives,
work?
but no respawns. In Apex or in Planetside Arena.
Either.
Uh, very, very similar. In Apex, they have these little terminals sparsely throughout the map that if
Yeah.
you have to loot the card. As long as you get to your player, loot the card, you can go respawn the character in that battle royale.
Mhm.
Planetside Arena used bunkers. What you see in Planetside 2, that construction bunker,
Oh,
they had
yeah.
those littered throughout the map.
Okay.
As long as you got to that bunker and you had a little bit of this currency, you could bring your characters back in.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's,
so yeah,
go ahead.
that pass made everything, I guess. In the first version, Assault like really performed, had this mega ambusher jump jet,
Hmm.
and it could just really outperform the other classes at times.
Mobility, yeah.
And towards the end, none of the classes could significantly outperform the other.
Interesting.
So yeah,
They were homogenized a bit in terms of their
a little bit.
capabilities?
I don't want to say that negatively, like
Okay.
in a way that I would say more they were balanced a bit more,
Oh,
whereas they were
okay.
just too. One was too good in certain situations compared to the other.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Cool. And those classes, were they also important? So, there's a story of Planetside Arena that I really wanna understand, because, I mean, it seems pretty clear that if you look at all the if you read between the lines on stuff, you can kind of probably get the sense that Battle Royale wasn't really necessarily what a lot of the passionate folks at Daybreak wanted to make when Planetside Arena was kind of in the cooker. I think we even saw some like angry comments from ex-programmer from Daybreak, Paul Ziadzio, I think, where he kind of alluded to this about how the Royale thing was kind of like an on high directive. Um, I'm trying to understand. Well, first off, is that your understanding too?
Um, I'm sure there was part of the team that was like that. So you had Andy Seitz, who
Yeah.
was the producer on Planetside 2.
Mm.
So I can imagine there's a big part of him that's partial to continuing the franchise as he knew it. And I think he was a tester for Planetside 1 or something. Like he had been in
OG,
the
man.
company, yeah, for a long, long time. So I could see that. That being said, Cardo, who I think you're going to get a with in the future,
Mhm.
he came on and he was the lead designer for H1Z1. You're gonna have to check me on that.
He
But he
he
came
was
on.
he was a lead designer on the combat for a
Okay,
period of time.
gotcha,
He still
gotcha,
reported up to people higher on the design food chain. There was a director
got it.
above him, I think.
So I do think that there was an element of the team that they came from the H1Z1 Battle Royale space, and that's their first experience of Sony Online Entertainment / DBG. So I don't think they had any necessary an affinity to the Planetside franchise,
Sure, sure.
like some did. So probably I'd call it a mixed bag on the team.
Yeah, so you have like, sort of the H1Z1 sensibilities, which is more royale, and I learned, by the way, the H1Z1 started off as a really more survival-y experience, then eventually got split off into just survival. This is a fascinating history I knew nothing about
Correct.
until I started looking into this.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, the Forge Light engine was supposed to be for 3 games. A, Planetside 2 extension, an EverQuest extension, continuing those 2 franchises, and then a zombie survival game. And, they started making the survival thing. I think, did you know PlayerUnknown was involved in the
Yeah, I
beginning?
heard that. Like he worked as a consultant, right?
Exactly. So I think someone on the team pitched the mode. He was tweeting about it. Smedley got PlayerUnknown consulting on it.
Yeah.
PlayerUnknown didn't
Dang.
get full control, but he got to have some input.
Mm.
And that's when that battle royale mode went into the survival game. That's when the game kind of blew up.
Right. Right.
And there's H1Z1 Just Survive folks that are diehard. They want them to finish that version of the game.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah, all these sort of big ambitions, and they're still ticking along years later with their diehard niche audiences.
Yep. Yep. There's people, they plunked down their early access money, right? They paid for what they thought was going to be a zombie survival game. They were excited. So I can understand their disappointment when all of a sudden it veers off, right? To a
Yeah.
whole different development track.
Yeah. Well, speaking of veering off, yeah, so I think that you helped me because by saying that because there are I think there are 2 roads in to kind of looking at Planetside Arena. We've kind of talked to it like in hindsight, which is oh yeah, Apex obviously that timing, etc. But
Yeah.
there's like the sort of the player unknown battlegrounds. There's player unknown H1Z1, and the company that made H1Z1 then made Planetside Battle Royale. That kind of progression of the battle royale conversation. The other part of the progression is sort of the Planetside side of it, which is the only thing I knew about until recently. I remember I, as a Planetside player, thinking who had never been interested in battle royales, because the whole reason I got interested in Planetside 1 in the first place, all the way back in its beta, was because I wanted a first person shooter with persistence and with RPG elements. Like I wanted to play World of Warcraft with a gun in my hands. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Yep. Yeah.
And Planetside was the first game that gave me something close to that, and Planetside 2 obviously took it from there. And even though the game has moved along in a lot of ways, and it's more actiony, it prefers the action over the persistence now, and has for some time. Um, for me, then applying that interest to a battle royale, I never saw why I should do it, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of other people in the community um, felt like I did, and some even probably felt like they might be interested in the battle royale, but the idea of taking this IP, which has been so on life support, and devoting resources to a new game while the old game continues to kind of struggle off into a corner. It
Mhm.
was super confusing for anyone who still cared about PlanetSide at that point.
Yeah. And I would argue even frustrating for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think betrayal might not be too strong of a word for the way a lot of people felt. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people just laughed it off.
Mhm.
Like, really? What? This
Yeah.
makes no sense. Um,
Yeah.
but I also didn't think it was going to go away so fast.
Yeah. I think I could see, they refunded the pre-orders.
Yeah.
What that says to me is there were very few pre-orders,
Yeah.
because you don't do that unless you're not getting a big chunk bitten out of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. So with that whole Forge Light thing, I think Planetside felt like there was more to be offered in the game that they never had time to fully flesh out.
Mm.
And so when H1Z1 was kind of going down, the hope was that from the player base was that they'd take one more look at Planetside 2 and really sort of finish the game. So
Mm.
I think
Mm.
most of the community, myself included, took it so hard that, hey, we'd be struggling along. Wrel, heroic job, just barely keeping this thing alive on, what? Him and 2 other guys
80
keeping this
hours a
thing
week in
going,
elbow grease.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, just a heroic yeoman's effort. But it's like, hey, come on, come look at us. And then, you hear that, okay, after H1Z1 went down, the call was trying something new. That it really felt like almost doing H1Z1 again, right? Trying to rechase the magic when
Right.
the battle royale craze
Let's have a
ended.
mulligan.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's like,
how did the H1Z1 community feel like when this was announced? Do we have any idea? Did they even
that
notice?
was interesting. I checked the Reddit forums a little bit back then. And I don't remember. I think they were still just so on about, hey, we're going to revert to version 3. I don't know if
Right.
you remember that. H1Z1 was convinced that if
I
you
learned
just
about that.
take the game back to this one
Back to
version,
the
everyone will
golden
come
age.
back.
Right.
And by then, Fortnite and PUBG were so huge, and Apex. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying? You've got 3 giants. Like you don't have no one has a chance in battle royale space anymore. Don't even try. So
Yeah, I feel like that genre matured really fast compared to like, I mean, how many years did it take for us to get our first hero shooter? Right. After the
Mhm.
first team-based games, you go back to the
Yep.
Quake 1 team deathmatch, back in the 90s, all the way to Overwatch. But from the first major battle royale to the first hero battle royale is like no time at all.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Yeah.
nuts. I mean, it was a genre people didn't know they wanted, and then when it came up, just the big dogs established themselves in it.
Yeah. Well,
Pushed everyone else out.
I've learned to appreciate battle royales from a distance.
Yeah.
Because even though it's not personally something that I'm attracted to, um, I understand. I think I get an idea of what's good about it. It's a game mode that does a really good job of creating a a player centered story in a short amount of time,
You are right on.
and it's
The
actually
fact
brilliant. Go on.
it is I will say the fact that it's game over when you die is big. And the beauty of battle royales is, you know, it's not like EverQuest 1 where it was a nightmare when you died. It's not completely
Yeah,
punishing, but you still get the heart pounding like I can't screw up. There's only one chance at this. Where with Planetside you die and you go on, right? You don't
yeah. Death
there's not that
barely doesn't really
penalty.
matter in Planetside. It's an
Exactly. It doesn't
inconvenience.
register.
The
So
stakes are
there's
low.
definitely an emotion you get from a battle royale game that you just cannot get in other games.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's the kind of the 2 sides of it that work, where on the one side, death like, not dying feels important, but on the other
mhm.
side, you get into a new game. Easy, quick.
And that's the beauty of it, right? If you get a big enough game where matches are already always queuing up, it's not
Mhm.
like you have to wait around for the whole team to die, like in some, like a Counter-Strike match or whatever it
Yeah,
was. You get to get right back into it.
yeah. And unlike PlanetSide 2, where when you come back, you're back into the same exact kind of fight you were just in, like,
Right?
if you were in a fight where you didn't have a chance to have a good outcome, when you come back, that's gonna be the exact same situation you come back to.
You're right on. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So, delivering a fun experience in a sort of consistent way, but with a lot of actual room for random things to happen and player agency. It's cool. It's cool. I respect it, even if it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Um, so what were like people coming to you with? Because a lot of people talk to you about PlanetSide stuff. Like, what were some of the biggest things you heard from your community when when you were making these videos about PlanetSide Arena?
It's kind of exactly what we were saying.
Yeah.
That was without a doubt the big tone of it was why is this happening? Basically, we want PlanetSide 3. I've been getting asked about PlanetSide 3 forever.
Yeah.
Um, let's go that way. Why is this happening? So I would say that was the overarching tone, and I was, certainly since I'm a loud voice, I was sort of saying the same thing. So I contributed to that
Yeah. Yeah, I heard
cacophony.
that in your content. Just like, what is
Yeah,
happening? It feels like like your old dad is still around, but there's a new dad who just suddenly showed up. It's like,
right.
what's going on here? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah. My frustration stemmed from a couple things. That first of all, the PlanetSide 2 community was never brought in,
Mm.
and I understand why, because we're awful, right? We're
Who wants
salty.
us?
Exactly. We're salty, angry
Oh
gamers.
yeah.
Like, what developer wants to have to deal with this? Like, a bunch of people that, they've been in this franchise for 15 plus years. Like, they're going to be awful to deal with if you all of a sudden change direction. I get that. At the same time, your game does not have a chance in hell if you at least get the franchise base to be quiet. Like, you at least have to say, hey, we talked them through this. We explained why we're doing it. You know, we said H1Z made us billions of dollars, you know, millions of dollars. We feel like this is hot right now. I know it's a deviation. We'll get back to your regularly scheduled programming. You know, please help us bring the Planetside idea to a different genre audience, and then we'll get back
Yeah.
to a Planetside 3 later
Yeah.
on. You know, I don't know how you would have spun it. I don't know how you would have pitched it. You wouldn't have gotten a very good response, but I think the communication could have gone a very long way.
Yeah. I
Um,
talked I talked to Kamikaze78 about this, not too long ago. And, like, our thought was, like, like, what's the, like, fantasy version, like, in our heads of, like, what Planetside Arena and Planetside 2 could have been, like,
mhm.
and to me, like, what that looks like is it's a world where you go to Sanctuary, and from Sanctuary, you can either play Arena or you can play Planetside 2. And you
You're
have,
right
like,
on.
progression paths that are overlapping in some way. You can bring cosmetics between the 2. You don't have
Yep.
to pick. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
the
know exactly what you're saying.
experiences dovetail and give the PlanetSide 2 community a direct path to being like, "Oh, the alert ended?" Rather than, playing at Nason's Defiance on Hassan for an hour, why don't I go, load into I don't know, like a Capture the Flag or a Royale or something like that.
You're right on. That was my very early on when the battle royale craze happened. Before, to me, Planetside Arena was too late. But I was like,
Mhm.
give Planetside 2 a hacked in battle royale mode,
Mhm.
because at the time, you know, this massive group of gamers, it felt like 50% of the gaming market. I don't know what percentage it was hungry for these games.
Yeah.
H1Z1, Fortnite, and PUBG. You know, Fortnite was a third of those basically. But I'm like, just hack a version in, because people will show up just to try the next battle royale, even if it's not great. You've
Yeah.
got 4 maps already. You know, code something in where a plasma storm is closing, whatever it is. Use the 3 classes, right? Or don't. You know, use the weapons. You've already got the weapon models. You've already got maps. Like, it felt
Yeah, this
like
is actually kind of a fun idea. Like, how far away is PlanetSide 2 from having a battle royale alert? How far away is it
100%.
really? Like,
100%. Well, yeah, you know, have a little small alert. Well, all of a sudden, I mean, you could do it teams, you could do it no teams. Obviously, you know, the Zerg all of a sudden has to kill each other, but
eh,
just start it all of a sudden. Make a battle royale go off.
oh my god.
Closes to
That
a
sounds
finale
so
at the
fun.
crown or something. I think it would be kind of cool. It would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or even
people.
even when an alert closed, right? You got everyone on the map. The alert closes. Make it a miniature battle royale right at the end. You know,
Oh, yeah, yeah, like,
before the continent closes.
yeah, have, like, a last man standing or a
Yeah,
last faction standing. Oh, that's a fun
it already
idea.
is kind of that, right?
Yeah.
So so yeah, I'm with you and Kami. Like, work it in, try to get some crossover in the genres, but trying to do a whole new game on it,
Yeah.
that one didn't, that play didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I loaded up some PlanetSide with my MMO buddy, last night. He plays shooters, but he's not, like, deep into PlanetSide or anything. He
Hmm.
will get in his engineer loadout, and he'll camp on a bridge for 90 minutes cackling like an idiot. I'm just like, "What do you" but he has fun,
Yeah,
man. It's like, "Alright, you do
there you
you.
go.
Camp in that
That's the
lightning,
beauty of it,
whatever."
right?
Yeah,
You get to pick your play style, right?
yeah. But we tried to play yesterday, and we both just we just couldn't find a fun fight for, like, an hour. And it
Yeah,
was like, "Fuck, why is it so hard to access the planet side experience?
yeah.
Why is it so hard?" And I don't wanna deviate too much into PlanetSide 2's woes, but, like, these something like Arena is a suggestion of what could solve that, you
Hmm.
know?
And I think that was their ultimate goal, right? Because they said, hey, call it the conquest mode or whatever, but the arena battle, but was it 100 versus 100? I'm not sure what they were pitching it as, but they were trying to bring that back, but it was a later on mode.
Massive Clash, is that what they were calling it?
Massive Clash. There you go. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, what do we know about that?
To me, it was their form later on of lip service to the PlanetSide 2 community. Say, hey, we haven't forgotten about you. We're planning on getting into this later.
Okay.
Um, but I think it was more of to me, it was very much an afterthought. I think sure it was in the early on pitch meetings, but there was never a track to get in there,
Sure,
you know?
sure. Like, I can easily imagine a situation where it's like, you have your design early on, and the order comes down. It's like, okay, we got to do battle royale first. So let's make sure
Yep.
that's really good, and that'll be good enough to
Hmm.
start with. And then we can take these design docs for these other modes and try to put them in. And then
Yep.
Apex Legends comes out, and it's like, okay, Royale wasn't a great idea. What can we do with the
Yeah.
design docs we have? Like, what? How
Yep.
can we make use of what we've got now?
Yep.
And let's noodle around with it. There was a capture the flag mode too. Did you ever get a chance to play it?
I did. Yeah. I've still got tons of footage of all the modes. But yes, I played a lot of Capture the Flag.
Was it good?
It was great. Again, it was the funnest Capture the Flag mode I ever played. It was a lot of fun. The the game had great movement. A lot of impulse effect, a lot of jump pads, with your jets on your characters. So it was fun in that you had a lot of mobility if you knew how to work it right.
That's
Um,
cool. That's
you
very
could capture the
tribes
flag.
like.
It was. There was you could see some of that in there. You could capture the flag without ever touching the ground, basically,
Ooh,
if you
cool, cool.
knew how to work it. Yeah, already as it was beginning, hackers were a thing.
Oh, really?
And that made it a little bit tough. That
Fuck.
you'd start a match, and then I don't know how they did this, but within 3 seconds, the hacker would capture the flag 3 times, and it would
Oh,
end.
no.
Game over.
What? So
So
some asshole like bought the game and then just ruined it for others.
well, yeah, and I mean, I guess I don't know how you could get into beta if you had to buy to get into it, but yeah, pretty much. Someone had. I'm just impressed at how quick they were rolling the hacks.
That's dedication.
Didn't even let the game come out.
Jeez, jeez. What was the community of people who played the game like? What? Who were those people? Like, what were their? Were they all Planetside 2 guys? Like, who played this?
It was a mix. I would say there were a lot of Planetside 2 people. It's funny. At the time I got to play with the Euro crew.
Okay.
Like sometimes I only get to play prime, whatever my schedule was at the time. I was playing in the mornings,
Mm,
so I got to play with a lot of Euro names that I see every now and then from Miller or Cobalt.
yeah.
So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I would say the diehards there um, were Planetside tours.
Hmm.
There was a few things that I think killed it. There's Planetside Arena, or sorry, Apex
Apex.
Legends.
Yeah.
There was the lack of looping Planetside 2 into the community, and then there was Swoop Gang, and that's I think the three things that killed it.
What is Swoop Gang?
Swoop Game, and I hope they're all cheering that they're getting this kind of shout out. Swoop Game was it was a bunch of Planetside 2 veterans, top tier players.
Yeah.
And you could play a 12 mode, a 12 versus 12 mode in the battle royale, and
Right.
everyone thought that would be cool. But if you go up against 3 skilled players, you have a chance at like sniping one, and then maybe you can eke out the kill against the other 2 good players. But imagine your pubby group of 12 goes up against 12 pros. You just get dominated.
Forget it.
And these guys would just go around wrecking lobbies. And there weren't a lot of lobbies.
Yeah.
So because there wasn't a lot of people playing. So it was like every other game, your group was getting trounced by these people. And I think so anyone that wasn't a diehard Planetside tour probably didn't stick around for that many matches.
Just got devoured.
So yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
If it was popular enough, then they could do some MMR, do some hidden matchmaking, and they could stick all the great groups with each other.
Right.
But as it was, there just wasn't an opportunity for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fish in
So
a small pond.
yeah.
So how did you feel when you learned that Arena was shutting down? How did that moment hit you?
The word in my mind was inevitable.
Mm,
From the time of launch, I didn't see the path to success because I mean I'd watched Fortnite become massive.
right.
PUBG was massive, and then Fortnite eclipsed it. and H1Z was massive before that. I had watched H1Z1 go down in flames. I'd watched the matches on
Yeah.
Facebook that could barely get 2,500 people watching them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, why are you trying? I know you guys want to recapture that H1Z1 magic when you guys were just crushing it, but the epics have moved in. The Tencents with PUBG have moved in.
The
You
big money.
cannot the big money is there that can throw 400 developer teams on it. You just don't have a shot. You guys aren't bad developers. You guys are
Mhm.
just a little guy in a world of giants, and
Mhm.
why are you trying? You know?
Mm.
So yeah, Inevitable was what was on my mind. Sure, I was a little bit sad, not really.
Yeah.
But just like, oh, surprised this didn't happen 3 months ago, you know?
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really interesting for me to hear about because you were so in it. For me, like my knowledge of it was just the occasional one of your videos I would catch for the most part. Like I was
Hmm.
disconnected, and I was like, it kind of surprised me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I knew it was kind of in the shitter, but I mean, I also seen Planetside 2 kind of be in the shitter for a while too. Like,
Right. Right.
it didn't. I thought, okay, there's one Planetside 2 game that's kind of off in a corner. Maybe now there's two, and that didn't seem
Yep.
strange to me. It didn't occur to me that it could go away.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt so sad for the IP and the community of players who have put their time and energy into it when it happened. It's like,
Yeah.
this sucks.
Yeah. One of the frustrating things for me as a content creator is, you know, at the time I was the number one content creator.
Mhm.
And I didn't get reached out to um, until they started it. They brought in,
Like the magazines and stuff like that?
yeah, exactly.
PC Gamer?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, they had done they looped me into a beta a little bit before that, but to me, I was like, I, I understand the hesitance, because as a Planetside 2 player, this is so different. There is going to be resistance, but I think if I was at least looped in, I wouldn't have been, I would consider myself an enemy, or I would have been at least a neutral party if I had the opportunity to say,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't my bag. I understand why you guys are trying it, rather than it was kind of just like, hey, let's try to find a new audience. We're going to market to new people. Let's just kind of just push aside the franchise history and try to full steam ahead. And we'll just try to go over the top of the hate of the existing
Mm.
franchise
Mm.
supporters.
Overpower it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just going to try or go around it, overpower it, whatever,
Yeah.
rather than at least try to. I don't know that you could fully loop them in, but you could have at
Mhm.
least given some communication or some explanation.
If you could design that interaction, like say you're the community manager of Planetside Arena, like, and you are looking at the Commander Sirius that's not you out there and being like, how should I get this person involved? This person really knows Planetside. They're going to be making content about my game. How should I get this person involved? Like, is it like how do you see that relationship going better?
Yeah. I feel like I appreciate the efforts that Wrel and team Rogue Planet Games are making right now to
Mhm.
do closed testing, then open testing, and then launch on live. I know people
Right.
don't really see it, right? Because they see all the bugs that, hey, we've reported on the test server, and they still make it to live.
Yeah.
So I understand people feel like their efforts are wasted, but I see a lot more effort than we got in the past.
Hmm.
And to me, it is understandable that, hey, they're not going to be able to solve everything in time. They have deadlines, they have to launch things, but they are trying to get some feedback from the community. You're there. Other veteran members are there in that Discord. I know there's like Illuminati thing like that. It's not like that at all, right? It's
People
members
trying to
from
help.
all walks. Exactly. It's members from all walks of the community that are literally just taking time to try to help give the devs a little bit of idea of how it'll play on live, right?
Yeah.
It's not perfect. You can never really test something before live, but
Right.
so I see that as a massive effort. And there's been plenty of great ideas that have been completely skipped over because they don't have time, they're overwhelmed, they don't have the technical resources, whatever it is.
Mhm.
but there still is an effort being made. And so that would have been, to me, what I'd like to see for Planetside Arena, say, hey, we are developing this. Here's the NDA. We'd like to get your feedback. I think we understand, we know this is not what you want for the next Planetside game, but
Sure.
here it is.
Yeah.
And I think,
Like a focus testing group.
yeah, and what I would have done is I don't think I would have supported the game, but I probably would have made a lot of content out of it. I would have just kind of said, here's what's happening. It would have been a very matter of fact news thing, rather than like, hey,
Yeah.
they're taking this franchise in a terrible direction.
So your content, that makes sense to me because that didn't happen, and because you didn't feel like there was a chance for the community to be a part of the conversation. You
Mhm.
kind of made the conversation happen with your content.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
It was, to me, it's a big deal because I feel like I'm an investor in the IP.
Right.
I've spent a lot of money. I've given them a lot of money,
Yep.
and I'm owed nothing. I understand that they can shut the game down tomorrow, and I'm not owed anything.
Mhm.
But at the same time, the way you keep these things going is you do treat your customers kind of like they're investors, and you try to deliver things they want. And if they're gonna, they are building these games off the back of my funding and everyone that's bought a membership paid in. And if they're going to deviate so far and not really try to loop us in, then I feel like I have a right to speak out on that.
Yeah. It's especially interesting because they offered those lifetime memberships during
Yeah.
the promotional period where you could pay,
Yeah.
it was like $300 or whatever for a
Yep.
lifetime Daybreak membership, which gets you Planetside 2 perks and a whole bunch of other
Yep.
access to a whole bunch of
I
other
was,
stuff that I've never taken advantage of.
yeah. Did you buy one?
No, man, I
Okay.
missed out. I was
Okay.
dumb.
No,
I
I was
pay them once a
horrified to
year
see
for an
that.
annual now.
Okay. Yeah. I was horrified to see that. I was genuinely concerned. To me, when you go
Mm.
there, you're in mega trouble. I was
Mhm.
genuinely concerned. Um,
It's like going to your fans for an investment round.
yeah. And I mean, to me, you're really robbing Peter to pay Paul at that point, because you are giving up a lot of future. I mean, these are whales that are going to buy this, right? And if
Yeah.
you're only thinking, I think it was what, 2 years you paid it back, basically. If you're
Yeah.
only thinking 2 years down the road, it's like, whoa, you're in a world of hurt. So I was
Yeah.
worried, but I mean, big prop to anyone that bought it. You guys played the long game, and you were right. They're well in the money on that investment now,
As long as they're still playing a version of Planetside or, one of
Right.
their properties.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
That being said, I'm sure really they're probably not missing out on a lot because those players probably roll those same funds into cosmetics, weapons, whatever they want now.
Implants for characters,
Exactly. So,
whatever they need. Yeah.
just because they're not spending $15 on membership doesn't mean they're not spending,
Yeah, definitely. That's
So,
the way it's done, man.
yeah.
Yeah. So I saw on Twitter that there's a new, bundle in the depot to celebrate the 19th anniversary of Planetside. Tomorrow's
Yeah.
next year, 2023 is the big 2-0.
Yeah.
What's the
I go
future
all
of
the way back.
Planetside look like, man? What do you think?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You can say the first thing and then we can get back.
Yeah. No, what I was going to throw in there is I go all the way back to Tanarus. I always bring that one up.
Can you tell me about
Sure you-
Tanrus? I know nothing about this.
Planetside Zero, man. It
This
was
is
the
some like
start.
ancient lore you're about to unearth.
Yeah, man, I want to say, was it 97? I can't even remember when it was. I found it on one of those
Okay.
PC Gaming Mags discs.
Okay,
I don't know if you ever got those
yeah.
magazine with the disc in it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep. But yeah, it was, it was, you had Mag Riders were in the game, Lightnings were in the game.
Really?
But it was all tank combat at that point. Lancers were in the game, but it was a tank weapon. Phoenix missiles were in the game, tank weapon. All that stuff was there, but it was as a tank arena combat game at the time. So
Interesting.
yeah,
The vehicles really did come first. Like that confirms it. Like
they did.
end of conversation.
Vehicles were first.
All right.
100%. Vehicles were first. Vehicles were first.
There's some very happy creatures out there hearing this, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the cadence of releases should mean that we've had Planetside 3 by now. But as I said, I feel like Planetside 2.5, Planetside Arena really took that last slot. And I don't know how you ever justify another Planetside title after Planetside Arena died, right? Because
Yeah.
as a gamer, you can look and say, oh no, that wasn't really part of it. But as an investor, you see, hey, the last game you released in the Planetside franchise failed, dead franchise, nothing else you can do with it, you know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't think Planetside 2 stops. I think they go as long as they possibly can. I think Planetside Arena, big statement here. I think Planetside Arena killed Planetside 3.
Ooh.
Personal opinion.
Planetside Arena killed Planetside 3.
Yeah.
That's savage, dude.
Yeah, that's big statement.
Oh. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Andy Seitz as going back all the way to Tonrus because he's the one who wrote the letter that invoked Planetside 3 back in,
Yeah.
I think it was back in 2020 before the escalation update. Am I remembering that right?
Yes. So you are. You know, the escalation update was the result of Planetside Arena dying. All of a
Right.
sudden, Planetside Arena died, and all of a sudden you had a development team that, what do you do with?
What a crazy moment that was. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you're right. So I mean, I never could have dreamed of Planetside 2 having content as significant as a continent overhaul or a brand new continent. I mean,
Yeah.
that is quite a reversal of fortunes, going from 3 developers barely hanging on, releasing some implant stuff and some tweaks every now and then.
Yeah.
See Combined Arms Initiative, etc.
Uh-huh.
To full on development again. I mean, people like the gamers won or Wrel won, right? However you want to put it. Like a game, the trajectory is usually just down, right?
Yeah,
And
it doesn't
Planetside 2
usually
went
have
to
a late surge.
it was like at the end there, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got a development team on it again. That doesn't really happen, and that was as a result to me of Planetside Arena going under. You had people that, what do you do with? Okay, let's put them back on Planetside for a bit. So,
Sounds like a really solid thing for a studio to do.
rather than lay them all off, or
Which has happened, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's a testament. I think it's probably Wrel. You know, Cardo told the great story of how Wrel, went up and spoke his truth to people reports far above him.
Yeah.
Saying that type of stuff is really putting your career on the line, So to me, I think we're lucky that we had Wrel at that time, because I think a uninvested decision maker high up would not by default make the decision to put resources back into this. They would by default divest, go in different directions, rather than, kind of dust off that old IP we have kind of kicking around that we're making some money off of implants, but we're not really spending time on. I think it took some very serious, I'm losing the word, but really fighting for the game.
Some balls.
Yeah.
And some
So
passion.
there had to be team members saying, hey, let's do this, for it to actually come back and get attention.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I'm thinking about that. That is a huge moment behind the scenes. You're in the studio. The big new project has failed. People have been working on it for the last 2 years? Who knows how long?
Yeah.
What do these
You're right.
people
At least
do?
that. At least that.
And I
Yep.
mean, these people have gone between projects before, so maybe this isn't necessarily new territory, but um, we know, like we can infer, and I feel crazy sometimes when I think about the effect that Wrel has had on the existence of Planetside 2 in 2022.
Yeah.
Right? I feel
Yeah.
insane because there is such a there is a group of people out there that are active and on Reddit and social media that are so frustrated with Wrel. They are so frustrated with Wrel. And they're passionate people, right? I mean, that's why they still be here. But at the same time, we like you and I have had a conversation before, Sirius, about how we think probably Wrel saved Planetside with implants back in like 2016 or 17, because the game could not be demonstrated to have made a profit. Like Say
Yep.
whatever you want about implants and about them being kind of a, you know, uh, a feels bad man on the consumer side of
Mhm.
things.
Right.
From a
Right.
product side of
Yep.
things, it's
Agreed.
like, wow, this game designer put the game back into the black, showed that it can
Yep.
make money. Okay, so that's one thing. And then the moment you just described of saying, bring these brave soldiers onto my team and we'll
Yeah.
take over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
If
would love
you're
to see what
Rel,
Rel.
if you're Rel, how do you hear the feedback you hear from outside and still do that?
Yeah.
I've
Well,
talked
I
to the
think.
guy. I've talked to the guy, and he's kind of mild mannered. You know,
Yeah.
he's a very thoughtful person, maybe a little introverted.
Yeah.
He's got his ideas, but there is a well within that man. Sorry,
Yeah.
tell me what you think.
No, I mean, I think, and I'm sure you've had to do this in your job. I think when you get thrown into the meat grinder, you eventually develop a tough enough skin. Well, you do. You either get kicked out or you develop a tough enough skin that doesn't really get to you anymore
Mm.
to an extreme degree. It's you still stay up at night thinking about it, but not as bad, right? Um,
Make your accommodation.
uh, yeah, yeah. See, the funny thing about Rel is, I remember one thing I loved about Planetside 2 and Daybreak, Sony Online Entertainment in general, is that we talked directly to the CEO all the time. Smedley was always there, and
Smed.
people hated his guts.
I
He
know.
did blog posts. He posted on Reddit. He did everything gamers demand of most companies, right? We want to talk right to the CEO. He
Yeah.
did it, and they hated him. How often do you hear someone complain, that gosh damn G-Ham, he's screwing up Planetside 2? Have you ever heard that?
No.
Do you think anyone in Planetside 2 knows that that's the CEO?
No.
No, they don't have a clue because the game now uses the standard tactic of you don't expose your senior management to the player base.
Hmm.
It's a bad strategy, right? Because he is going to
Hmm.
get verbally abused, he's going to get attacked, all that stuff. And so I'm sure Smedley did way more good for Planetside 2 than Jiham ever did or even thought about it.
Hmm.
But he gets zero hate because he's not involved. And Rel has to bear that burden now. So
You know, you're right.
um,
I think Rel is bearing the legacy of Smed, for
he is.
better or worse.
Yeah, he is.
Wow. I never made that connection, but I think you're right. You know, I've learned a little bit about Smed in the last little bit, and like the crazy story behind how the first EverQuest got made when the guy had like a budget to make a sports game and just kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna do this little project and no big deal. It's just the world's first MMO, 3D MMO. Like, no big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah,
what a gamer, man.
I know. Seriously, he was a true gamer. True gamer. Yeah, he did it for the love of the game, without a doubt.
And he still tweets praise for Planetside. Like every once in a
He
while, he'd
does.
just be like, "Yeah, Planetside, go get it, guys."
That's the thing. That was because Tonaros was very early on for him. Again, it was that was the beginning of the franchise. I don't know if it was one of his first at that studio that he founded. Whatever, it was very early, so he has a soft spot in his heart for Planetside. I could tell he wanted to go back to Planetside, but you can't go to the investors and say, "Hey, H1Z1 is making $10 million a month, but I want to go work on this game that's, barely limping along." I think Smed would have
Thanks. You'll
he
love
would
it.
have gone Planetside 2 any day over doing the battle royales. But
Yeah. What is Smed up to these days? Do we have any idea? I know he's been in the
oh, we
news for
do.
like, yeah, what's going on?
I'm waiting for him to buy. See, the problem is it's EG7 now. I was waiting for him to buy Daybreak
Uh,
Games. He's a studio head at Amazon.
oh, he's at
So
Amazon.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what exactly his role is. It's more hidden in it all.
Okay.
Um, but like I'm waiting for him to come in and be like, "I'm coming back, boys. I'm just gonna gobble up Daybreak Games." It's a drop in the ocean for them, Amazon, right? I think
Mm.
Daybreak was valued at like I think it was doing like 600 mil in revenue. I don't know what it was acquired for, but Smed could just come in and gobble it up and be like, okay, guys, let's do Planetside 3 right this time.
Here's the plan. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. We can hope, right?
Oh, shit. That
Or dream,
actually,
maybe.
that puts a little spark in me that I didn't have before. I'm actually really
Yeah.
glad you said that. You remind me that he's there. That would be
And
a incredible
that's
moment.
where Andy Sykes went too.
Right.
So it's like, I can see, it makes sense. They've had long runs at Sony Online Entertainment. They had successes. EverQuest was a success. Planetside was a success. Planetside 2 wasn't, but it was a functional game for a long time. Still is. H1Z1, big success. They had a lot of success, and I can understand why once Escalation, they proved, okay, we still got it. We can still deliver good patches, and then on to bigger things at bigger studios with bigger budgets,
Yeah. Oh, Planetside 3. Okay. Well, I want to talk. Can I talk to you a little bit about the future of Planetside 2 for a second?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, man?
absolutely.
So let's think about Escalation. Um, One of the first pieces of Planetside content I ever did on YouTube was me talking with my old buddy, Rug Cutter, who I know from like the days of playing Half-Life 1 mods together, about whether Planetside Escalation would succeed, whether it would do what it needed to do, and what did it need to do. And Wrel's been pretty clear about this: is he wants to permanently increase the number of people playing Planetside 2. That's what he wants. But if you look at Steam charts, it tells a pretty grim story of the last 2 years. That despite the fact that we've seen an enormous increase in the fidelity of the updates, we've seen things that we never thought would come to Planetside 2, like a fourth or actual real fourth faction, a new continent that's fairly well polished. Say what you want about its design, however polarizing that is. A whole bunch of really game-changing moments that we never thought we'd get to see. And what effect has it had? I'm
Yeah.
asking you, what do you think the effect it's had on
Well,
the longevity of the game?
I think the challenge is there's so many games out there that can deliver, are so polished, right? Huge development cores, huge quality control teams. I mean, when they put out a patch and when they put out the new season in Fortnite, when they put on the new thing in PUBG or the new update in World of Warcraft, whatever it is, I'm not saying there's not bugs, but the level of polish is so high. And the challenge for Planetside 2 is they couldn't afford a team big enough to do that. So it always feels like, one step forward, kind of two steps back with each patch, right?
Yeah.
Escalation was impressively bug-free. But at the time, they were coming off of a big development team helping them. And I'm sure that's kind of been redistributed over the years since then. Either, some people have moved on, maybe onto other games. I think that initial strong team, I don't think they got to keep necessarily. So that's like the Arsenal update. A lot of interest, massive, latency challenges, G15 challenges, all these things.
How painful has that been? Oh God.
Exactly. And so
The
that's
Connery
I
shit
feel
in the
like,
bed.
oh man, it was so rough. And I feel bad for him, right? I don't want to come out and slam a bunch of videos but give him time to fix it. But at the same time, it's like, man, we need to create some urgency, right?
You gotta speak the truth.
You gotta get some urgency out there, right? So, yeah, that is the big challenge I see for Planetside. I see great content being released, right? Maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, but just the new hotness will bring people back. The higher number of people playing will make it more fun, even if you don't care about the new content.
Mm-hmm.
So I see great things happening there, and just the challenge of delivering a good patch. Could they make a perfectly polished patch? Absolutely. It would take them a year per patch. And they can't afford that, right? They've got to do, every 3 months.
Which would be dumb.
Get some content.
We wouldn't actually want that.
You wouldn't. People would get bored.
Yeah.
You would, you'd lose developers overall.
Do 4 times as much stuff, like 2/3 as well.
That's right. Perfection is the enemy of progress, right?
Yeah.
And you got to find the right balance. And there's plenty of patches that did not find the right balance. They were not polished enough. But I agree that they got to keep going forward. It's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
So, I am like, I don't see it dying. I'm not pessimistic, but I don't see the next launching point, right? to a Planetside 3, to some sort of big patch that really does something amazing. I don't see the next jump pad. I just don't see it right now.
Do you think it's self-sustaining right now? Do you think it's still in the black in terms of money in, money out?
I think so. And I think they are going to be quick to delete members of the team to keep it that way. Sadly. Like, I think it is a very, you wouldn't really know about it. I think if it's doing well, it's always going to be tough to grow the team, even if you get a really good patch, I think, because they're going to look at the few bad months and say, oh, we got to keep you in case the revenues go back down to this level. But yeah, I think they could sustain like this, just the way EverCrest releases a new TLP server every few months.
Yeah.
And everyone's subscribed for it. I think they can keep, they've got long-term player bases that are all wealthy now, really. Maybe wealthy is the wrong word, but they're adults that have plenty of disposable income. So they can go, drop for a big membership and some of the cosmetics in the store, and
yeah,
they can do just fine.
There's this interesting world, and I feel like Daybreak is like right in the middle of it, of all of these sort of late stage, initially ambitious multiplayer projects that are still around, have this really well-defined niche that no one is really grabbing at. Like no one's really trying to make a new Planetside game. It seems like Battlefield could do it whenever they want to, but they just don't want to.
Yeah.
Although, they're reinventing themselves. Who knows what'll come out the other side. You have this world with all these communities that just kind of let these passion projects of days gone by continue, and it's kind of beautiful, actually.
I agree.
Because one of the things I always have struggled with, oddly enough, struggled with the most, and I told you that for Planetside originally, one of the things that really attracted me to it was the persistency of it. And a lot of people who play Planetside 2 don't know that Planetside 1 even took it a few steps further, because the way you accessed fights in Planetside 1, there were not alerts. If you wanted to create a fight, you literally traveled to the continent and you put a hack on the base. If you needed vehicles there, you carted them in from the warp gate. And the continents were all interconnected with each other. So to get to Cycer, you have to capture Ishendar first, And so you would have this sort of continental progression, and you can create back hacks on continents. And it felt like a world. It felt like a world that was still ticking along when you weren't there, in a way that Planetside 2 doesn't feel. Anyway, that was a little mini rant. But what I was trying to say initially, apologize, was the persistence is so interesting to me. And yeah, actually, I kind of lost the point I was going to make. I apologize.
No. I get it.
I got really impassioned about Planetside 1 there for a second.
Right. No, we're thinking about the future and what happens next, and part of that is, looking back. But it all makes sense in the light of how these small games keep going, right? EverQuest keeps going. Planetside keeps going. It kind of harkens back to these players that still have those nostalgic memories of those first moments in some of these worlds. So you're on topic, just parallel to the topic.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I've been trying to do some more like reaction kind of content on my stream lately, and one of the videos I reacted to was one by Bellular, who is better known for his World of Warcraft content, best known for that, news and commentary, that kind of stuff. But he did a kind of a conversational video with his producer about the current state of first-person shooters, focusing mostly on AAA. And talking about kind of where things are. And it was really interesting. You could tell that these two men shared some psychic pain over looking back on their experience of playing first-person shooters when they were teenagers. And then 10 years later, in their late 20s, when they're making this video, they're like, yeah, we don't get to have those experiences anymore. We're like doing progression systems and unlocking battle passes, and like, we didn't need that before. Why do we need that now? Have we lost something along the way? It was interesting to hear them sort of explore that discomfort. And then the next day, I saw a really great video by Danny O'Dwyer, who runs a documentary crew called No Clip on YouTube. They do gaming documentaries. Like they've did a documentary on the developers of Warframe, on the developers of Doom, a bunch of really awesome ones, like seriously awesome documentaries. But this was kind of a fun side project they were doing about Facing Worlds, a map from Unreal Tournament '99. You remember it?
I don't know.
You might have seen it like in pictures and images, and if not, then look it up. But it's two towers in space joined by a little
Okay.
bit of rock that face each other, orbiting around the Earth.
Okay. I
And it
know
was
that
this,
map. Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah, right. Like this is it's
Yeah.
part of the visual dictionary of gaming. I feel like,
Right. Yep.
and it's a lousy map to play. Like it's kind of
Okay.
sucks. It's like a sniper. It's a sniper gallery, right? It's like it's
Gotcha.
miserable to play on. But it's so iconic because of the setting and the sense it evoked that nothing else in Unreal Tournament or anything else really from that era managed to match. Um, and he talked about all of that and how it was made and some of the great kind of lore behind the game. And but at the end, Danny looped it around by talking about um, how he understands those simpler times of how games were and how to understand what was good about the past and what's good about now. And what he said is essentially that each generation of games is always grows and learns from the last. Just the same way we change as people. And even though we look back on the memories of things that we once loved in an unadulterated way, the truth is that we can't access that person. We're not the same person who loved that experience. And if it came back around, we couldn't love it again in the way that we did.
That's true. Yeah,
Think
the
about
the the repeat, the TLP servers or whatever, the remakes, it the excitement is really nostalgic rather than a new authentic feeling
mhm,
of, the way it was back then.
mhm.
You're exactly right.
Why did I bring that up regarding Planetside? I guess it was to try to think about what the future direction could look like. And you mentioned looking back to look forward. It made me think of that.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's why people keep going back to the TLP server or the remake of whatever, the World Warcraft classic, right?
WoW classic. Yeah.
They're remembering that experience and they're wanting it again. They
Yeah.
can't, as you said, they can't really have it again because they've changed.
Right.
Um,
It's
you're
the same
kind of
thing that
really going
sequels
back
get us,
for
right? It's the
right.
same thing that the repeat titles of franchise gets. It's the same thing that each new Marvel movie gets us.
Yeah,
It's like, yes, I get to
true.
go back to be the person who watched Iron Man in the theater for the first time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Gaming,
Can't
man.
truly recapture.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going down this trip down memory lane with me, serious about Planetside Arena. Help me kind of get into the boots of a Planetside
Yeah.
Arena soldier and creator and fellow
Yeah.
frustrated Planetside 2 veteran. Uh,
Of course, man.
what do you got going now, man? What are you working on?
I wish I was I had this great streaming run going, but I've fallen off the wagon right now.
You've been busy.
I have. It's good. I would as you know, we lost, I think I mentioned, I was chatting with you, we lost
Mm.
1,000 homes in my area. So
Yeah, yeah.
being a builder now, there's just a massive housing shortage where I am, and we're under duress trying to get things going. So my content ambitions have slipped.
Sure.
It is
That's
very,
rough. That's rough.
yeah.
How do you like this is something that I work on myself too. Like I kind of feel like if I don't get to make time to do content, that like there's a part of me that just kind of stays switched off, and it doesn't feel good over time. Is
Right.
content for you like an outlet? Like, what do you? How's it
It
feel
is.
to be out of touch with it for a while?
It's tough to me. Producing content is very cathartic.
Yeah.
You get a lot in your head. You have a lot of ideas. You've collected a lot of footage, and they bounce around, right? Unless you make the video on them, it keeps bouncing around. And
Yeah.
to me, it just kind of builds up, right? You don't get to speak on what you're thinking about. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a bummer to let down your fans, right?
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have people to come by and support and are always there for the stream or the video, whatever, and then you feel like you're letting them down. And they understand. They understand real life, but so that part's a bummer. But it comes down to, I really want to get it out of my head, keep it going. But obligations, IRL, right?
Life
It's
happens,
always
dude.
there,
Comes at you
ever
fast.
present, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the future of serious content, is it always going to be Planetside for you, man? Like, what are your ambitions when you can get back to it?
That was never my vision. I was hoping to go much wider. I would
Yeah.
really like to, do some reviews, just dive into some other titles. Not
Make that your next
Planetside would
piece of
all.
content, man. Don't worry about the Planetside stuff for a little while. Taking a break, put it to use.
I know
Take a week
that's a good
off.
idea.
You
The
know?
biggest challenge is I actually got to go play those games, right? I have on this
Yeah.
screen over here, I've got like 12 games installed. Like these are my next ones. I've never
Yeah.
played a Sid Meier's game. I've never played it. It
Ooh.
looks awesome. I love that idea. I want to go do it. I still have. I bought what was Amazon's big. What's Archie playing?
Oh, New World.
I bought New World. Never played it.
Oh man.
I've got all these things. I'm like, I'm gonna check all these out, and then never play them.
That's brutal, man.
So so that's tough. The fun thing is though, when I do get to play, I still generally just play PlanetSide 2. My youngest is into it. We used to, it's really cool. We used
Yes.
to play a lot of Minecraft,
Yeah.
and that's fun. Love doing that. But my youngest, he's crushing it, man. He's doing a
Let's
great job.
go. How old?
Yeah, he's 7.
Wow, nice.
So it's fun when we get to play together. That's a lot of fun.
That puts a warm in my heart, man. That's
I'm
great.
shocked. He's like, he's doing really good, man. Like
What's his IVI?
Yeah, that's a little bit low, but like he loves Colossus and Bastions. Like that's it's interesting to me because I kind of view him really as, it's an interesting like case study to me. Like he is the there's myriads of the gamers like him out there, right? The younger kids, right? Kids up through high school, that these are really what gaming companies are trying to capture. Getting us old folks is great. We got plenty of money, but really capturing the young audience and bringing them in. So it's interesting to see what he likes, what he wants to do, what he's interested, what intrigues him. He's interested in some of the Araxium weapons. He's interested in the Colossus. I'm like, the tough thing I'm realizing, like with Planetside 2, all the stuff people want is like impossible for them to get to when they first start.
It's a distance.
That's a whole thought process of like, how is everyone, if they come in and what attracts them is these cool flashy features, but they're so far away from ever getting to use them, how are we going to keep them around?
Interesting.
More video ideas pop into my head. The
Oh
cycle
yeah,
continues, right?
juices are flowing.
So.
Yeah, I don't have a 7-year-old, but I mentioned to you my MMO buddy I play with, who's kind of a casual Planetside player. I love to hear his takes on everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Because you don't get to hear from those people. Ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're never going to show up on Reddit and tell you what they think. They're never going to make a video.
Yep.
They're never going to show up on a podcast to tell you what you think.
Yep. And that is most of your accessible audience, right? Because you've already got the people that know about it. They're either in or they're out. But everyone else, there are myriads of people that, scrolling Steam, free, massively multiplayer shooter. What is this? And you've got about 2 hours to grab them, and it's an interesting thought about how you make those stay. So hearing from those people, your buddy, when my son was a new player, like what makes him tick, what would keep him there is interesting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. 7 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. He got up to like battle rank 38 on his own. And then I was like, well, I had to pop for a membership for him. So
yeah, get that
we'll
extra
see if he stays into it,
Yeah.
At that age, I'm sure it's all fleeting, but so far we've had a ton of fun.
He has to get some of his friends involved, and then it'll be self-sustaining.
They're not into the friends gaming yet. We kind of don't allow that, but it'll be. I'm like, is it Fortnite? Like, what are they going to play? I don't know. Someday he's going to come home, right, and be like, hey, my buddies want to play this game online. What's it going to be?
Oh, sure. Yeah, 7 years old playing online. I didn't even think about that. Like,
well, I mean, I figure that's a few years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah,
like when he's 13
12,
or whatever.
13. Yeah.
When he comes home, it's like, oh, everyone wants to play this tonight. What is that game going to be, right? Is it going to be Fortnite is going to be maybe it'll be Minecraft then. Still,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Apex Legends 2.
that it might be that. It might be that. We'll see.
Overwatch 2. Probably not.
Yeah. Have you checked that out? Another
Yeah.
one. I'm like,
I didn't get into the beta, but I've been watching the coverage and just like shaking my head, man.
yeah.
I don't even know. What's
One of
your
the things
take?
on my mind about a lot of these games is like, Destiny 2 is probably stopping at Destiny 2. Division is probably stopping at Division 2.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's not a lot of games that go for 3 when I kick around the idea of Planetside 3 in my mind. It's like the first one, they did it and they realized, okay, it worked, but there's enough wrong with it that they can't really work with it. World of Warcraft is one of the rare ones where you just stick with the first one.
Yeah.
But then these other games, it's like, okay, they make the second
EverQuest
one, and then
2.
that's really the as far as they go, right? EverQuest 3 failed.
You get one
Right?
reroll.
So, yeah, you get one reroll. That's kind of what it is.
I think
so.
that's like I read some kind of comment about, and it was more talking about like with like movies, stuff like that. That
Okay.
the success of any sequel movie will be based on how well received the prior one was. It'll have nothing to do with how good the movie you're going to see is. So
Right.
when a sequel comes out and it's not good, you won't see the damage until the next movie comes out.
You're right. That'd be an interesting study, right?
Star Wars had that happen, right, with the new Star Wars trilogy.
Okay. Did the
Where-
third one really, or the first
Well-
one was such a bust, or?
I think Force Awakens, like it was good, good schlocky Star Wars stuff. Like people, it was a copy of A New Hope, and people were okay with that. And then Last Jedi, which was incredibly polarizing. And then people were like, "Do I need?" And people were like, "Do I need to watch a third one of these?"
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I didn't watch the box office. I was thinking all the way back to Phantom Menace, etc. But on the new ones, I was right there. I certainly, I watched the first one, and then I think I don't even know if I caught the second two. I was like, wait till they're on Disney Plus, basically.
Yeah,
For the last two. So
skip the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
And the comparison between the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy. God, that's so confusing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So I think Revenge of the Sith came out in like 2002 or 2003. Force Awakens came out in like 2017, I think. So that's like a 14-year gap. Like I'm thinking to myself, how long would Planetside need to go away for before some publisher who's not Smedley, who can still do his thing, right, with his Smed bucks, someone else be like, hey, remember Planetside? That franchise is kind of kicking around. I bet you it wouldn't cost us much to buy this IP. Let's do something with it.
Yeah, that's a curious thought, for sure.
I mean, it happens in gaming. You see stuff come out of nowhere, like Star Citizen, totally captured a totally underserved market, and then milked the fuck out of it.
But sure did. What was the original game called?
Star Citizen. Oh,
yeah.
You mean so? Chris Roberts was made famous for doing Wing Commander. That was
Wing
his
Commander. There you
smashing
go.
success.
Like I didn't even know about it, and then all of a sudden, like
it was early days.
Yeah. This audience comes out of the woodwork to, they start the hype and then everyone else piles on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it?
Crazy dude. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you got anything else for us, Cyrious?
No, this is great, man. As you dive into this, let me know if you need footage. I got tons of Planetside Arena footage. I was working on a video, and maybe it'll still be out before you release this. But
okay.
Showing some of my takes on Planetside Arena and giving people heads up that you're going to be diving in more. I think people will be very curious to see some of your upcoming interviews. So I was hoping to have it out now, but soon, hopefully by this weekend.
Cool,
so
man.
Everyone can get a little more info from my perspective, and then you'll get the inside perspective from Cardo. I'll be watching that one, man.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. Well, thanks, man. I hope you have a great great rest of your day, and good luck with the work stuff. I hope you get back to content sometime soon. We all miss you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and good luck resolving all of your work stuff too.
Yes, much appreciated.
Keep after it. So
thanks, Cyrious.
Always good to catch up with you, Deeg.
Always good, man. Have a good night.
We'll see you Planetside.
Peace.